Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Okay, reading is going to be on a pair of crazies that don't really deserve a reading on their own, and I kind of have a hard time justifying that they even get a partial reading, but it's a symptom of a bigger problem that we have in the United States. Okay, the first one is a Republican state representative in Michigan named Representative Matt Maddock claimed on social media Wednesday night that he had photo evidence of, quote, illegal invaders, unquote, arriving at the Detroit Metro Airport. So I guess the first question is, if they're what? If they're not white, then they're illegal invaders? I mean, how do you know they're illegal invaders? Do they wear their "We Are Illegal Invaders" t-shirts? Are they carrying around their "We Are Illegal Invaders" signs? You know, what causes you to lump a group of people as illegal invaders? And then he posted up on Twitter an Allegiant Airlines and then 3 buses. And he wrote, happening right now, 3 buses just loaded up with illegal invaders at the Detroit Metro. Anybody have any idea where they're headed with their police escort? Well, folks on Twitter responded and pointed out that these were 3 basketball teams in Detroit for March Madness. And it was confirmed with fact-checking that the Gonzaga men's basketball team flew in on a chartered Allegiant Airlines flight to Detroit. And it was the only Allegiant flight to land in Detroit. So it appears that Mr. Maddock is racial profiling. If we just make a mild assumption that basketball players tend to not be white. Not that there aren't white basketball players, but they do not make the majority of a basketball team. It was also so folks pointed that out to him, and his comment was, nice talking point, commie. What is going on in this guy's head? Basically, he also, let's see, at the very end, he showed his crazy. He doubled down on it. We know this is happening, and hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants are pouring into our country since we can't trust the hashtag fake news to investigate citizens' will. The process of investigating these issues takes time. Yeah, fact-checking and, getting your facts right before you spew them out. That's something, too. The news media doesn't do that, at least not the legitimate ones. The non-legitimate ones, hey, they can spew anything they want, as long as they say, for entertainment purposes only. Hey, wait a minute. I'm talking about me. What's the energy around this knucklehead in Michigan? Oh, he's fighting the good fight. He's going to keep those. He is single-handedly going to stop all the immigrants from coming into Michigan. Because we all know the Detroit metro area is the hotbed of illegal immigration. Look, the only illegal immigrants that are getting flown or bussed anywhere are being bussed by DeSantis or Abbott out of Florida and Texas. And they typically dump them into blue states. Now, if you think that somebody is quote-unquote dumping immigrants into your metro, maybe you should go yell at Abbott and DeSantis first. And I apologize for using the term dumping, but that's pretty much what they're doing from their perspective. For the rest of us, that's not how you treat people. You're treating them literally like they're garbage, and you're just dumping them where you don't want them to. That's not fair to them. They're people, they have stories, and they've suffered probably way more trauma than any of these politicians ever have. But let's get back to here. Here's this guy fighting the good fight against the fake news and the commies and everything like that. And it's funny how they'll dig down and dig in, double down when given facts that don't fit their narrative. Cross with the Hanged Man in the Star. He thinks he's doing righteous work. and he's willing to take one for the team in order to protect the DC metro area because he's going to be a star. He's a MAGA person. He's a Trumper through and through. This is just what they do. This is kind of how they see things. They're the patriots. They're the fighters. They're the ones making the sacrifices to keep America great again. Make America great again. In the past is the lovers. He's gone in full QAnon. He's gone in full MAGA. And he got elected. How gerrymandered is his district? Anyways, he's been put in a position of power. This level of crazy is accepted in his district. And there's no reason for him not to lean into it. It's gotten him this far. The problem is, the Queen of Swords, is that there are facts and there's fiction. And when confronted with facts and a simple explanation for something, it kind of dumbfounds him. It knocks him off his game a little bit. So the best you can do is try to deflect what the Queen of Swords is bringing you. Now, he comes in his own Queen of Swords energy, which is basically, I'm right, you're wrong. And I mean this in the lowest energy possible for the Queen of Swords. I'm right, you're wrong, they're invaders, and there's nothing you can tell me that'll make me believe they're not invaders. I mean, if every person on that Gonzaga basketball team that came off that Allegiant flight, or any of the basketball team members on those 3 buses, if they all had their passports, their driver's licenses, their yearbooks from when they were in elementary school through high school, this guy still wouldn't believe it. That's kind of how invested these folks get into it. There's no amount of proof that you can give this political flat earther then that would make him change his mind. Just dig in. Overarching energy is the 7 of Cups. Lack of integrity. He thinks he's fighting the good fight, but again, when shown facts, provable facts, he's dazed. Dumbfounded. Kind of like Mitch McConnell when he has one of his 2 episodes that we saw. Just they're mind buffering. You see Jordan Klemper talking with Trumpers at rallies, and he brings up facts that stuff that Trump said, that like suspending the Constitution, that they've never heard on their news channels before. It's like, would you vote for somebody who would suspend the Constitution? Why? No, I would never do that. Well, Trump said it. Here's him saying it. I would suspend the Constitution. They're like, how do I get out of this? How do I spin this so that I can still be a good fighting MAGA QAnon person and not say anything bad about dear leader? This guy has no integrity. He has no integrity because he's not willing to believe that he's wrong on something. He thinks he's right on everything. And again, there's no information, nothing of value that you can bring to him that he doesn't already have, that he doesn't already know. There's no convincing him of anything because he's already made up his mind. He is the righteous one and everybody else is not. The outcome is funny. They talk about the fake news, but they create their own fake news. He can look at a situation of some, you see some a group of tall minority guys young men walking through an airport, and you assume that they're invaders. I mean, how did you get from that to this? There could be lots of simpler explanations, especially when March Madness is going on. And that an iota of asking some questions might have gotten you the answer. Ugh. Surprised the cat hasn't woken up and jumped on here as I get a little agitated by this. It's just frustrating, man. It's one thing to be wrong. It's another thing to be wrong and be adamant about being right when you're wrong. But it's a completely other thing when you're wrong. You're adamant about you being right when you're wrong. And then when just shown evidence clearly demonstrating that you've made some incorrect assumptions or assessments, that you ignore it as inconvenient. Speaking of inconvenient, Dateline, Georgia. Georgian Republican Party official Brian Pritchard pled guilty of a judge found him guilty of illegally voting 9 times over several years. This is the same person who's been asserting that Democrats had stolen the 2020 election through fraud. Administrative law judge Lisa Boggs wrote her decision that this is Georgia's GOP's first vice chair violated state election laws by voting while on probation for forgery and other felonies. What is it? God, I'm sounding like Lena now. What is it with the GOP in Florida? Is this Florida or Georgia? Where did I see this? This is Georgia. Georgia. What is it with the GOP in Georgia? For God's sake. Yeah, our vice chair, what, guilty of forgery? Yeah, that's who we want in there. Back in the day, this guy stole some checks and wrote $38,000 in forged checks back in 1996. And he was found guilty of felony fraud. He had to pay the money back. And felons in Georgia lose their right to vote until they complete probation or parole. And he did not complete his parole. When did it say he completed his parole? It's not saying, but apparently he voted in elections. Let's see. Evidence presented in court indicated Pritchard's probation had been extended until 2011, but he registered to vote in 2008 and voted in 9 elections between 2008 and 2010. So he got fined $500 for each election that he incorrectly voted in. And he's basically saying, I didn't do anything wrong. I've not done anything wrong here. I guess if you're apprehending public enemy number 1, here I am. All right. The judge said you did something wrong. Here's the right answer. In case you need a copy off somebody's test, here's the right answer. I made a mistake. I thought I was okay to vote. It turns out I wasn't. That was a mistake on my part. I'm very sorry for the misunderstanding. I'll pay the fine and move forward from here. That's the right answer. But the irony, of course, that Democrats have stolen the election, but here's the guy that's voted illegally 9 times. Surprised he wasn't purged off the voter rolls. Okay, so, Mr. Pritchard, what's up with that? Why can't you accept, I think I just did this reading, why can't you accept the fact that a judge found you guilty of illegally voting? He came up with some excuses like, oh, I thought I was off of probation, or they commuted my sentence to civil, so I thought I could vote. And the judge was like, too much belief needed to be suspended for her to get to where he was. Mind you, this is the vice chair of the GOP currently in Georgia. So it's not like this guy's you or me, you know. It's not just some schmo that, no, he works for a living and, you know, votes, or, you know, in this case, unlike you or me, this guy's a felon. And my apologies to any of my viewers who are felons for not include you in the non-felon pile. But for all my felon viewers, yeah, I think you kind of know when you're a felon, and you kind of know maybe what's going on with it. Where am I going with this? I don't know. Dude should know better, basically. Dude should know better. I'm not running to be the vice chair of any political party in the state of California. And if I did, I would certainly know election law better. So what's the energy around this guy? Well, what do you think the energy is? It's the devil. You know, believing what you want to believe in. You have your causes, and, you know, he's tied himself, again, just like that other guy, he's tied himself to MAGA. He has made MAGA his political identity. supporting Donald Trump, his political identity, and vilifying the Democrats, ironically enough, for stuff that he's done. But, in this case, absolutely refusing to acknowledge that you did something wrong and much less apologizing for it. Just unapologetic crooks. His only regret is that he got caught. He's probably a little bit embarrassed by this, especially given his position. But, and it could be that he knows what he did was wrong, but he can't bring himself to say it in public. Too humiliating. So what do? You let your ego charge over and you double down. Underneath it all, this guy's a crook. He committed fraud and had to pay it back. So what do? You put him as the vice chair of the Republican Party in Georgia. Because there's clearly no money, power, or influence in that position. That's a perfect position. Why don't you just put an alcoholic in charge of in charge of your winery? Stocking the cellar in your winery. That's a good idea, because that's pretty much what you're doing. In the past, 10 of Pentacles. Okay, this guy's motivated by money. And, he's willing to do whatever it takes to get money. And if that means committing fraud against a business, he's going to commit a fraud against a business. And now he's moved past that. I'm assuming that he's served his time and served his sentence, and he's off parole. And he doesn't seem to have learned a lot about accountability since then. Maybe he's not stealing anymore. It would take a lot for me to come to the point where I would believe that he's actually being honest and not, skimming or embezzling or obtaining money in a less than legal fashion, shall we say, in that position. But let's put him in that position. Current situation is 10 of Swords. Well, he got caught and he got sentenced for it. Is that going to cost him his position? Do the Republicans even care that much? I mean, wouldn't you think him being a felon would be a badge of honor? But it does, on one end, though, what it really does, it really undermines his Democrats steal elections theory, because he's been proven to have illegally voted. And he can't prove that Democrats have illegally voted. So that's a problem. That's a problem in his little myopic world that he lives in. He might be asked to step down. Again, I have a hard time believing that, or he might get moved out of the position that he's in. It makes him less of a MAGA warrior in this case, because again, he's been convicted. And, how can you claim Democrats are stealing stuff when you yourself have been convicted? The whole, you can't trust Michael Cohen because he's a convicted felon and a convicted liar. That argument. Even though, in Judge Engeron's case, Judge Engeron found Michael Cohen's testimony to be believable, honest, and noteworthy, whereas he found Trump and his spawn and other representatives of Trump.org to not be reliable witnesses. So, there's always that possibility. But there's going to be some changes moving on here. Moving out of Commerce Shores. They might move him out of that position. Yeah, there's going to be an offer that they're making that he doesn't want. I think they're going to move him. How funny is that? Georgia Republicans might actually hold one of their own accountable. I find that hard to believe. But, if it happens, you heard it here first. Outcome is the King of Pentacles. Move in charge of fundraising, because that would be a good idea. Kind of what I'm getting here is that they're going to move him away because he's kind of had his wings clipped for a bit. They're going to tell him to cool his jets. They may bring him back later, but I think when you've got a position like that, there are a lot of people that would be gunning for that position, and there could be people with money that can buy their way into that position. So I think his only play here is to claim innocence, claim that he didn't do anything wrong, and hope that he gets to hold on to his position. But I'm getting the sneaking suspicion that he's going to be shown the door. Or at least demoted to some other less lucrative position there. Who knows? Do I want to do anything else on these? It's okay. One last one. Spiritual meaning. I'm at this one. It's like, okay, you know, we're in a classroom. We're supposed to be learning. What's the spiritual meaning for these two guys? One who absolutely won't believe anything you tell him, and another one who won't show any accountability. One who refuses to believe he's wrong, and one who refuses to take accountability for when he knows he's wrong. What do we have here? What's the spiritual lesson we're supposed to be taking from this? Little four-carder, we'll call it a day. The Sun card, you know, in the end, everything gets exposed. I think I hit on this one last night. Just like if you had a life review, if you make it through your entire life without having to deal with it, you still deal with it in your life review. But I think this is more that there is truth out there. And if you're on the wrong side of truth, that's going to be uncovered. You can get away with it for a while. Truth is out there, and people celebrate the truth. They celebrate the truth more than the lies. Interesting underneath here is this Five of Pentacles. It's almost like this fear of missing out. These guys are missing out. They're missing out on something. They're missing out on whatever this party is happening inside this church here. You know, they feel like, you know, their lives are empty and meaningless unless they're part of the cult, part of this big celebration that's going on here. And if they have to lie, cheat, and steal to get in, they will. If they have to pretend that they're naive to get in, they will. But in the end of the day, whether or not you are in denial or you are lacking accountability, in denial, whatever, you're still not in. You don't get in until you account for your behaviors. And if you can do it while you're alive, that's great. Spirit will celebrate you. If you choose not to do it while you're alive, guess what? You still get to go through it. But you do it in spirit, and chances are that you get to have that life lesson again. You don't get to pass the test. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. But it's a lot easier to pass the test if you do it on this planet. We'll leave it at this. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for your likes, shares, comments, everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so that my video makes it out to a wider audience. To folks discovering this channel recently or for the first time, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you found us. I hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.